Hey everyone, this is Ian Carlin. Welcome to the Empty Cup podcast. With me via the interwebs is Taylor Kelley. How you doing, Taylor?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Hey everyone, you are in the world where traditional and modern martial arts collide, and we dissect what is left over. This is very interesting because this is kind of an interesting story because Taylor was my first guest, and Taylor is started his own Taekwondo federation called Functional Taekwondo Federation, and you're my first returning guest. And this is crazy because my last guest, the very last guest that I had was Daniel Woolshire from the Freestyle Taekwondo Association. So I come full circle, right? You know, we got the whole martial arts spirit going on here. So I just wanted to get you back on the program and talk a little bit about some issues in Taekwondo, some issues in martial arts in general. But of course, I'm not going to go through your history again. If people want to know about you and about how you started the martial art, they're going to have to listen to that first episode. But I wanted to get an update because I've really been following you and been interested in your story of how you developed functional Taekwondo and your move to Texas and where you're at right now. So give us a brief update.
Basically, I used to live in Vancouver, Washington, and I decided, for various reasons. One, family was down here, and I just wanted to start my own business in a place where I can see myself living, and I really wanted to be in Texas, so I moved down to Texas. And if anybody here is like looking to start a martial arts school, I think the best thing you can do that will save you tons of money and save you tons of debt is find a place where you can part-time train, where you can teach classes at like a gym, either it's like a fitness studio, because at least with that, when you're starting from the ground up like that, you know how to budget your money a little bit better. And what I've been doing is that I've been after lots of trial and error, I found a place where I'm teaching functional Taekwondo at. I'm mostly teaching kids, and the reason why I'm doing that right now is because what I envision functional Taekwondo doing is basically, having most of my income come from the children's program and then training fighters for free. I think that's the best thing you can do, especially if somebody's an upcoming fighter, they want just a place to train, using functional Taekwondo. I think that's, the best way. So far I'm doing pretty well. Right now I have an event coming up next week where I'm expecting 56 people, 56
Wow.
kids for a self-defense seminar, and where I'm going to be just basically talking about functional Taekwondo and how we're very different than traditional Taekwondo. And I found that the more I address that and I stress the differences, the more people are interested. And,
Okay.
That's basically what's been going on. So.
Right on. We'll have to do a JKD seminar down there at your school one of these days.
Yeah,
I'll come on down and we'll put up some flyers or something. I'll do some Jeet Kune Do. Maybe see who's interested in that. That'd be fun. So, well, let's kind of go back over this because it's a fun topic. And like I heard you on one of your videos talking about functional Taekwondo and traditional Taekwondo and what you've kept out of Taekwondo and what you've discarded. And you said something that actually kind of shocked me. It really did shock me because I wasn't expecting to hear this. And you said something like only 5% of Taekwondo works. That only 5% matters. And I was expecting like 50%. Or basically you're saying 95% you have abandoned of what you've learned. Or I don't know about abandoned, but there's only 5%. Huh?
That's an accurate word. Abandoned. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's just like, and I know how that feels because I've come from schools where it's just like there are things that have carried over that I've been really interested in. But I don't know about this 5% thing. I thought that for sure there would be more than 5%. So talk about that a little bit. How come is that literally like a scientific measure, or is this just something you're rattling off the top of your head, or would you be more, you thought about it? Would you be more you know, gracious with it, or you know, go ahead.
Well, so I when I first came up with that number, originally actually I had about 40%. Originally it was 40%, and then I dropped it down to 5% because a lot of the techniques in Taekwondo, if you have like a parallel between like Muay Thai and boxing, and they teach the same technique. Like for example, in Taekwondo, I know there's a hook. There is a hook punch.
Yeah.
But the way they do it compared to the boxing method, I find the boxing method more efficient. And then, you know, same goes with some of the kicks, like the round kick, you know, the snapping motion. Yeah, it's fine. You can do that sometimes. But the Muay Thai version, like, man, you get so much more power just kicking with your shin. So that's, you know, I slowly what I did is I found like techniques that were very similar. And then I kind of like picked and choose. And what I found is that, you know, only 5% of the techniques from Taekwondo actually like are very effective, in my opinion. And when I judge a technique's effectiveness, I look at high level competition. So I look at MMA. So does it work in MMA? Because the thing is with MMA, it has the least amount of rules, and you know, and it has the most variables. Like, you know, a person can take you down. You know, they can do all sorts of stuff to you. So that's how I judge a lot of the techniques. And I would say the best techniques of Taekwondo are the spinning kicks, the back kicks. Some of the footwork I do like the up jin, hu jin, some of the footwork I do like. But generally speaking, I've always stressed this point is that if you have a really good foundation with your hands, like you really know how to box, you know takedowns, you know jiu-jitsu, then that's when Taekwondo, you can really highlight Taekwondo. Because the thing is, if you throw a spinning hook kick and miss and land on your back and you don't know jiu-jitsu, you're kind of screwed. Because it's a high risk, high reward type of style, and that's one thing that I think Taekwondo is great at is, you know, throwing these crazy spinning kicks with the hopes of knocking somebody out. And you know, if you do it correctly, you have a higher chance of throwing a spinning kick knocking someone out than just throwing like a normal kick, because you're getting so much momentum. So, yeah.
Right. Let me ask you a couple questions. Can I let me push back just a tad, because you know, I came from the White Dragon martial arts system. Was the first system I got my black belt in. You know that, everybody's listened to that, knows that, and it was basically the Tong Sado, you know, forms and stuff with animal style kung fu in it and stuff, and I know all about like cutting things out, and you know, it's insane. You know, we'll go off onto that a little bit later. But and of course I go to an MMA gym now, you know, and of course, you know, we have like jiu-jitsu 2 nights a week. We have, you know, boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai a couple nights a week. You know, it's just kind of broken up that way. And I know that the Muay Thai kicks get more power. I know that they do. No question. You kick somebody with a Muay Thai kick to the head, it's over. You know, if you land it, you know, it's terribly more powerful. However, the Taekwondo kicks are not unpowerful. They're not as powerful. They're not unpowerful. And I've been rocked in the head, and I've actually, it doesn't, you know, I've knocked some people out in the past with round kicks to the head from the Taekwondo school.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, you know, that the kicks from Taekwondo are just bad, like you should never use them. I'm just saying that you need to. That's what functional Taekwondo is. It's a hybrid. It's a combination. Like for example, I put out a video of how to do a round kick on my YouTube channel, and I showed people 3 different methods. I showed them the Taekwondo version, the Muay Thai, and then a combination of the two. I do think that, you know, chambering your knee before you kick allows for more dexterity, where you can, you know, change angles. You can decide, you know, you can kick high, you can kick low.
Right.
And, you know, if you use the same mechanics, like of the snapping motion, we do it with your shin. You know, that's, you know, the shin's harder than the instep of the foot. And like you said, like, you know, I've had kick people in Taekwondo before and it's been fine. So not all of it's bad. I'm not saying everything about Taekwondo is bad, but
right. Right. No, no. I was just wondering about that kicking method, and I like that you kind of brought that back too, because you can chamber your foot, and I fight with a lot of fighters at the school. I'm an older guy, but I'll tell you what. Every time I go and I fight with them, and I help train them, that's part of what I do there.
Mhm.
Every one of them, they always ask me, are you planning on fighting? Because you should fight. They always ask me that. And I always say the same thing. I'm like, I can't, no. I don't have the time to train for it, number one, and I don't like getting hit in the head. I hate getting hit in the
Who
head.
does?
That's what, yeah, well, that's why they say the two things that I'm known for there is the footwork and my fast hands. I got really fast hands, for especially for
Mhm.
blocking. And because I just developed that over the years because I don't like getting hit in the head. So I just like bang, bang, throw it
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
But they're always like really impressed. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, you can come in with, loading that chamber up with that knee and then deciding whether or not you are going to do a hook kick or a round kick or a side kick, or a low side kick, or or a low round kick
Yeah, Stephen Thompson,
or
perfect
whatever.
example of that. Stephen Thompson, I've studied him thoroughly because he is, in my opinion, and even though he does karate, it's Taekwondo and karate are pretty much the same thing. Um, Even though he does
Right.
karate, like if you were to learn, functional Taekwondo, that's the way to learn it. It's the Stephen Thompson way because he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Um, he knows how to kickbox. He has good hands, and you notice too is that whenever he gets caught in a situation where he has to, the thing is with kicking and using traditional martial arts, you got to have a range. With Stephen Thompson, he has huge range. His legs are super long. As soon as they close the distance, he shifts to kickboxing. Like you notice his shoulders shift. He turns back to here as opposed to being sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a perfect example of how to blend the two together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and of course, in the opposite spectrum, we want to get away from what Taekwondo has evolved into, and that's just kind of a game of tag, and so
exactly.
they're not worried about power, because all they want to do is make sure their foot hits you somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's more about speed and just using kind of like tactics to get the foot in somewhere.
yeah.
I
I
it,
mean, there's some benefit to that, I will say though, because a lot of those point fighters who transition to MMA and train it for a while, they have a very good understanding of how to get in and out. That's one thing I've noticed sparring with karate guys is that they can go for one thing and then come back out and then they make you miss and it's frustrating. But then again, I'm more of a fan of. I mean, I'm not a fan of point fighting. Don't get me wrong. I think that if you had to pick between Muay Thai and point fighting, I think there's benefits for Muay Thai. Um, but if it's continuous rounds, I think that's what changes because point fighters are used to, 1 point, oh, the judges stop it, score, and once they get over that, where they have to go in and out, in and out, in and out constantly, then they actually have an edge. I think they have an edge if they decide to pick up MMA.
Yeah, right. Well, this is the thing. I don't know if you listened to the last podcast. I can't, not the last one. Maybe it was the last one or the one before that, where we talked about attributes versus techniques.
Mhm.
And there are so many of these little things like this that I think that would benefit real fighters. They're underestimated. So, like for example, I think Chisao is underestimated of how much benefit you can actually get from it from real fighters. It's underestimated. But with this in mind, the reason why it's underestimated is because you have a shitload of idiots who overestimate it and
Mm-hmm.
think it's the measure of a fight.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, and and so it's the same I see with karate and point fighting. There, I think a lot of top fighters could benefit and learn, and they really kind of underestimate something like point sparring could benefit them. But the reason why they underestimate it is because we had this whole generation of idiots who thought that point fighting was the measure of a fight, and then they got into a real match and they got the crap beat out of them. But it's like you're saying.
What do you mean I didn't knock him out in the first round? Like, like excuse me. I remember I was at a seminar a long time ago. It was like had like people from the Korean national team there, and it was that's actually where I learned. I learned from a guy who was a member of that team, and one of the things he said, like, Taekwondo is the knockout martial art. It's only for knocking people out, and I understand where they're coming from, and I can see why they would say that, but boy, some people, like, they just don't get knocked out. There are people that just don't get knocked out. Like, there's been stories of police officers, you know, driving a knife through a guy's head, and he's just kind of like, oh, what's the big deal? Like,
yeah,
human beings are, you know, we're getting crazy strong, and, you know, it's kind of scary that some people just won't go down. Some people go down easily, though. I mean, some people just get rocked and then it's over. But, you know, just
yeah, I'm more one of those. I don't know if I really am or not. It's just that I don't want to find out.
yeah, it's just better not to find out.
Well, you know, it's again, you know, I'm coming up on 44 here, and a lot of my martial arts experiences were back in the, you know, late 80s, early 90s, and even up into, you know, the early 2000s. And, you know, we did a crap load of full contact point sparring. And, you know, I've been hit in the face, and, you know, it's just like, okay, I don't like it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm fine to not get hit. Of course, you know, there's that, if you do martial arts and you're interested in it, you know, you got the little thing in the back of your head that says, okay, you know, this time, this round, we're going to go heavy. But for the most part, I'm just like, oh, I get hit in the head. I'm like, let's drop it down a couple notches, shall we?
Yeah. But I think it's healthy for anybody who, you know, is learning martial arts, needs to experience that at least once. You need to experience what it's like to be punched in the face, because that way, if you're on the street, someone punches you in your face, you're not absolutely shocked. Like,
well, you need to keep going, and that's one thing that it was kind of this you know, this balance is like one of the things that are kind of like good and bad. So, for example, I had my teacher on who runs Fusion Martial Arts, the MMA gym that I go to. And we were talking about this very thing about point sparring, and because he's a world champion point fighter, but he's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he trains fighters. He's legit, you know. I mean, he's got all sorts of stuff going for him. But we were talking about the benefit of point fighting going into MMA, and one of the things I said was sometimes the boxing can be a little bit predictable, okay? Because I know that when I'm fighting with somebody, it's going to be right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. It's going to kind of be this back and forth kind of a thing, which kind of makes predictable. However, I wish I would have said this as well. Also, with that, you have to learn how to continue to fight. You're not just hitting that point and stopping. You know what I mean? And that's been one thing that's actually been a challenge for me. Okay, if I can see the rhythm, if I can get in there into the fight and I can see the rhythm, I do know that it's okay. You know, the jab comes, then comes the cross, then comes the hook, then comes the uppercut, then comes the side kick or the round kick. But at the same time, if they set it up right, I have to do more. Like, I know that it's not just one, you know, like I know that I'm going to have to deal with a bunch of punches coming at me. It's not just one punch and the guy's going to stop to see if he got the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing even back when I taught traditional Taekwondo, something that kind of like made me wonder, like, why do people not do this? I always tell my students, be greedy. When you get a point, get more points, you know, because usually, like, in Taekwondo sparring, you know, you get a point, you know, they all celebrate and do stuff. I'm like, stop doing that. Just try to get 3 points. Like, I would tell kids that and adults that too. Like, look, you score one time. That when the person feels that, they're gonna be like, oh, oops, I messed up. And at that split moment, you got to get them again. You know, you got to use like several attacks.
Right.
Just to get.
Yeah. And I know a lot of point sparring people don't expect that. And they're not expecting the angles, and they're not expecting somebody to actually hit them. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, it's like a
okay, you get rocked. Yeah, it's like, it's not a tap, buddy. You know, it's not a back fist kind of tap as quick as I can, you know, round kick tap as quick as I can. That foot's really coming at you for some power, and that's not the only thing coming at you. You know, if that one doesn't fail, then then the hook punch is coming right after it. You know, so that was challenging. You know, that was challenging, going from a point fighting system into more of an aggressive MMA system. So I need to ask you this question: functional Taekwondo. We've talked before about the MMA being the gold standard. You know, and I agree to a degree with that, but you're talking about self-defense too. And I know this comes with a lot of baggage, Taylor. I really do. But do you like, so for me, like for myself, like I love to get in there. I love to mix it up. You know, I love the full contact kind of, you know, more atmosphere, really pressure test you. But my martial art is really, I'm really thinking about, okay, I'm walking out of the grocery store and somebody approaches me. I mean, that's like what I'm thinking about. You know what I mean? When I practice martial arts, that's kind of what I'm going to the ATM. Is there going to be somebody around who's going to try to grab me or take a knife to me, or a multiple opponent situation? And I don't want to get into this bullshit about, you know, oh, it's too deadly for the ring or anything like that. But in my spare time, I practice very few techniques. I practice strike to the groin. I practice eye jab, and I practice throat jab. Because I'm thinking about ending it, you know, just ending it. What's your perspective in functional Taekwondo? Do you have scenario training like that? How does it fit in there?
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's one thing that some people misunderstand when I say MMA is the gold standard. Sometimes they think that, you know, I don't deal with. I just never teach people how to kick to the groin or eye poke or bites or like things like that. Like, the reason why I use MMA as the standard is because, you know, if you have that and you can eye poke and you can kick to the groin and you can bite, like that, you're going to be a better chance. Like, the one problem I see with some martial arts in general is that they only teach you how to groin shot. They only teach you how to eye poke. Like, that's like the end all be all. And, you know, those things are great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, a kick to the groin, that sucks. That doesn't feel good. That can end a fight pretty quickly.
Right.
An eye poke. But, you know, I feel like if you have the foundation of everything else and then you sprinkle that on top, like, for example, at the very early UFC's, groin shots were legal. Like, people forget that. People were punching each other in the nuts. And, you know, it was hard to watch, but, you know, some of those fighters just took it. They're just like, yeah, it's whatever. It's no big deal. And I mean, nowadays they just complain. Like, they're like, oh, and like, not saying that they're just whining. Like, I'm sure that hurts. Like, getting a shin down there hurts. But, you know, and yeah, as far as knives and weapons go, like, I just tell people straight up, like, look, I'm not a knife expert. I am not a gun expert. If you, you know, the best martial art would be gun kata. I don't know if you've seen Equilibrium, that movie. That pretty bad movie. I didn't like it, but if you have a gun, that just trumps everything else. If you have a knife, that's like the second thing to it. And, you know, one thing that I always tell people, and I think you watch this video, is that I have 4 rules of self-defense.
Okay.
And first one is you walk away / run away. Get away from the situation as fast as you can. You don't want to deal with that. Number 2, you use your words. You try to reason with the person. Number 3, you get help. You know, either it's dialing 911 or you find somebody else to help you. And then number 4, you defend yourself. And, you know, that's the last step, right? And, you know, and this is a funny question. Somebody asked me, like, and this was actually way back in high school. I was doing like a presentation on martial arts. And somebody asked me, hey, you know, what's if somebody wants all of your money and they point a gun at you? What are you going to do then? Are you going to do like some Jackie Chan technique? And I was like, no, I just give them my money. Like, I'm not gonna try to do something fancy because my life's on the line. Like even with a knife, like yeah, dude, take my money. It's not worth it. Now if they try to stab me, well, I'm gonna do the best thing I can. And I'm gonna do what I think I know what to do. And as far as like, and this is what I feel about knives. I mean, guns is totally different. But as far as knives go, I feel personally that, you know, if you treat the knife like the extension of the arm, and you just go for that, like that's probably your best scenario. You know, just disarming that knife. Like I said before, that's not my expertise. Functional Taekwondo isn't going to teach you so much about weapons. Like that's not my expertise. I do want to get into that, and a guy that I really want to learn from is Burton Richardson.
Oh yeah,
I would, you know, in the future when I have enough money, I will definitely fly out and like meet him and get certified under him, because if I want to learn knife defense or anything about weapons, it'd be from that guy.
Yeah.
And then I would incorporate that into functional Taekwondo. So
he's good. He's a JKD guy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Legit. He's legit, man. Yeah. Yeah, he's good. I really like him. I've asked him to be on the program actually. They say that he's not going to be free until August, but that's
he's a busy guy.
Like, yeah.
See his Instagram and Facebook. He's just traveling all over the world, just teaching. This is awesome. I really want to meet that guy.
Yeah.
I actually told him about functional Taekwondo, and via Facebook, and he thought it was a great idea. He was like, "Yeah, that's you know, exactly what JKD Unlimited is essentially. Is, you know."
Yeah.
So.
Kind of like upgraded Jeet Kune Do, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Ronin JKD is too. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like no rules. It's really what Bruce Lee wanted. You know, it's the track that Bruce Lee was on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure I'm positive that Bruce Lee would have gotten into a lot more grappling if he was still alive, and you know what I mean, and a lot more MMA stuff. So I'm just positive of that. So he was always continually evolving, and so that's the idea.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I stress to people too. Like, hey, you know what? I know I disagree with Aikido and what they do and stuff, but hey, make it functional. If you can make it functional, I will respect that martial art. Like I would love to see, you know, a functional Aikido school or a functional Systema of all martial arts that I have such little respect for. But you know, just because I always see, like, I follow a page called like World Fake Martial Arts HQ or something.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening, you should like their page because they have the funniest system of stuff in the world. Right? But,
right on. Well, if you're looking for functional Systema, look at Kevin Secor. He's
Secor.
left. Yeah, look him up. He was on the he was on the program. He's it's called Combat Systema.
Combat Systema.
And they do some pretty. I'll send you one of their videos. They do some pretty impressive resistance training, and the dude's been stabbed twice in a real fight.
Wow.
He's a very interesting guy. If they're like, and I've said this before, I said, look, Systema, no. I just don't do it. I said, but if there's a systems school I was going to do, you know, that I'm very interested in, it's his, because he's already a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu when he went into Systema. So like he's done, and like he does like judo and, you know, other stuff, other legit stuff, and then just took like some of the better stuff out of Systema that would work. And, you know, it's kind of like what you're doing with functional Taekwondo. So his school looks pretty legit. So yeah, look that up. But yeah, I know what you mean. You know, I wish that people would just, you know, bite the bullet and just say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make this more functional. And personally, and I know this is true with you too, because you just put out a video, not just, I don't know, you put out lots of videos. So
yeah.
This could be a while back, but you put out a video about kind of your change in perspective on martial arts, because you've met some people who do maybe more flashy stuff, and they just kind of admit, yeah, this might not work. I do it just because I like to do it. You know, it's just like, you know, like some people like to do yoga, but you know, they wouldn't say that yoga would necessarily work in a street fight. or an MMA fight, but they like doing
Funny you
yoga.
say
And
that.
some
There
people,
actually is a yoga martial art now. I can't
oh,
remember
there
what's
is.
called. Yeah, it's such ridiculous stuff. Like, I think one of the moves is you drop down in the splits and you like cross punch somebody, and like it's like something out of Mortal Kombat. Like it's ridiculous. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I have no problem with people doing like wushu. Like I think wushu is one of the most beautiful martial arts. I did wushu for a little bit, and you know, when people understand that, yeah, this is for performance, and you know, this is not for like fighting, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just don't come to me saying that your 8-palm monkey fist crane technique can step into the ring with a UFC fighter and you'll do just fine. Like,
Yeah.
like don't do that. Like that's my issue. Is like don't blow out of proportion. And a good example is this that Tai Chi guy that fought the
Yeah,
MMA fighter.
I was just thinking of that. I was just thinking of that.
Like, why are people so shocked? Like that's what boggles my mind. Like some people are shocked. Like what? He didn't do what they do in the movies. He didn't like fly up in the air and like Ip Man just punch him in the like it's sad. It's
Right.
sad. Like I really wish people like were more logical, but I guess it's not.
Like how many times we have to see this lesson. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like how many times we have to learn this. You know, it's like and I'm not much of a hater for other schools. You know, I mean, I have my opinions about different things, you know, and I've said stuff before. You know, it's just like, look, you know, you got to be realistic. This is not going to work in an MMA fight, or you know, or somebody's really trying to hurt you. You know, it's just it's not going to work against that. And I'm not a hater. I'm like, you know what, you want to do that on your own. I mean, I still practice my forms. You know, I don't have any. I practice them to warm up. You know, I you know, kind of a thing. It's not. I see the beauty in them, but I'm not under any disillusionment that, you know, going from a front stance, you know, boom, with my low block, to another front stance with my low block, to back step, that this is really translating over into some type of fighting method. I love to do it, but I'm not under any disillusionment. And that's what I want to see in somebody else. You know, it's just like, cool, that's really cool. Or you do your cool, you know, your wushu thing. That's awesome, where you're really stretched out up high and then you go down into a low monkey stance. Great. I love doing that stuff too, but you can't be under a disillusionment that you're going to go into a fight and you're going to do something like that. It just turns into, as we were talking last time, it just turns into like bad kickboxing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and some people like, especially on my YouTube channel, I get, you know, 8 emails every day for what I post. And, you know, in comments, and people are saying, oh, why are you being so disrespectful and rude to martial arts? And like, well, here's why. My issue is when, and I've personally met people who studied a traditional martial art that claimed they teach self-defense. Like they legitimately claimed that, hey, these 1-steps, and I made a video recently. It's on my business page, which basically described how functional Taekwondo is different from regular Taekwondo. Like, you know, a lot of regular Taekwondo, the curriculum's all on forms. You know, right? Like it's all based upon your kumse. Like how many can you memorize? Let's apply it. And my issue is people teaching people saying, yeah, you're going to learn great self-defense if you do this. But in reality, they're lying to them. And, you know, and I've personally met people who've tried the things they learned and get really hurt because they don't they don't pressure test martial arts. Nothing's pressure tested in a lot of traditional systems. And, you know, and people are saying, oh, you should be more respectful and nice. And like, no, I'm not going to be respectful and nice. I'm tired of, you know, people saying things that are not. Like if you're a traditional martial arts school and you know, like either you adapt to what's working now, okay, great, good. You're not my problem. Or you decide, okay, this is performance based only. I have no issue with you. The issue I have is the schools that say, yeah, we teach legitimate self-defense. This is super effective on the street. It's 100% effective. It works. And, you know, and I have a huge problem with that because you're just lying to people.
Well, yeah, they're lying and they're going to get people hurt. And people do get hurt. That's the thing. Yeah, people get hurt. Like that Tai Chi fighter with the, and it's just like, how many times we have to learn? I remember when I first started learning jiu-jitsu, and I it was way before this school. Well, it was like a while back. It was like right after I got out of Systema. And about the only thing that I did get out of Systema was kind of a love for ground fighting. I was just like, well, this is kind of cool. Like I want to explore it. So I went and I had a friend who was a purple belt, and I just started rolling with them. And another friend of mine was just like, all you got to do is hit them real hard when they come in. That's all you'd have to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, haven't we seen this? Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times haven't we seen this before? You know, I mean, how many fights do I have to look up and show you, you know, okay, here's this guy who tried to hit this guy that came in, and even if he got hit, he still took him to the ground. Once he got him to the ground, it was over. You know, it was it. You know, the guy had no idea what to do.
Yeah, like as the Greeks say, the ground's the ocean. They're a shark. Most people don't know how to swim. So
right. Yeah.
So
that, yeah, it's just like, how many times we got to learn this lesson? You know, we have to learn it over and over again. And well, it's just like what you were saying too. You know, I have a problem with it too, because people get hurt. They think that they're learning something cool, or they think they're learning something legit, and the truth is they're going to get hurt, and people can look at or killed. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So.
You know, people can look at someone like you, to a more extent than someone like me, but me too, you know, and they could say, oh, you're a hater or something. And the truth is just like, look, there's a problem here. You know what I mean? We don't want to see people get hurt. You know, that's, I mean, in the end, that's what I am concerned about. Somebody thinking that they learned something that will actually work on the street, and then walking, you know, getting jumped, you know, the lady who took the 3-hour self-defense course, and then getting, you know, learned the splits and the strike to the groin.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I think I know why people are so offended, and it's really, and I've been there, and I feel for them, and I've said this in the other podcasts, and I'll just briefly say it again. It's pride. I think it's because they've studied a martial art for so long, and this is what they taught. This is like something they just practice for years on end, and they don't want to adapt to change. They're kind of like, this is the only way I can describe it, like Eric Cartman from South Park. They do mental gymnastics in their head, where they're like, well, I'm just going to ignore what that person says, and I'm just going to convince myself that this is the correct thing to do, and then make up some weird story in their head that sounds like viable. And I think that, yeah, like I said, it just comes down to pride. People are unwilling to take off their black belt and learn something new. Like the thing is, like my friends, they're kind of coming around now the more I talk to them, and I did martial arts with them since I was like 5 or 6 years old, so I've known them a very long time. And you know, some of them are coming around, but at first they were like really resistant to the idea of wearing a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, and that's something me and my friend Matt were like, yeah, I'll wear a white belt. I don't want to, you know, be something I'm not. Like, and like I said before, I think it's just people are attached to pride, and I don't want to get too much into, you know, racism in martial arts, but I think it's a thing. There's a weird Eastern mysticism thing that goes on with traditional martial arts, and I actually posted a video about a guy commenting on a Tiger Schulman's karate studio, saying that I didn't like the school because there wasn't any Asian people in it. I think there's a big problem if there's no Asians in an Asian populated part of town. Like, man, come on, man. Like, that's just
what's that got to do with
racist.
Yeah, what's that got to do with anything? Whether or not the martial arts is good or the school is good or whatever. I feel like
people think that, but they just don't want to say it. But then there's some people that say it, and then that guy got praised for it too, which was the shocking part. I thought like, oh, okay, there has to be somebody that says, dude, that's wrong. Like, no, people were like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like,
really?
Like, what?
Really?
So,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you hear Roy Harris's breakdown? You know who Roy Harris is?
Sounds really familiar.
He's one of the Dirty Dozen. He's one of the first 12 people in America to ever get their black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So,
well, did he train out of the garage, like the Gracie garage, or something?
I think so.
Okay.
He trained. Actually, I think he trained the garage for a while. Then he went over to the Machados or something like that. But he has like a categorizing of 5 different martial arts. And I said this, I forgot it on the last podcast. I'm going to forget it on this podcast too, probably. But it was really good. He said there's sportive, combative, traditional, I forgot, healing, and I can't remember. Oh, and eclectic. So those are the five. Yeah. And he talks about it. He said, you know what? And then we went into like even in a school, you can run through the 5 ranges, of depending upon the focus of a school. One school can focus more traditional and be like traditional karate, and then another person in the same karate school can be like trying to upgrade it and making it more combative or more sportive or something like that. So, and I've been to different things like that where, it's okay, as long as people are realistic with where they're at, that's fine with me. And as far as the whole kata thing goes, when did the Taekwondo katas get made? Wasn't it like back in the 40s or something like that?
Yeah, they were. There's a lot of theories to that, and one of the theories I heard is that, and this sounds the least viable, but somebody would witness a street fight and then write down what they saw, and then that's how katas were created. Like that's what I heard. And then honestly, I think it's for a couple of reasons. I think katas were developed.
I'm talking specifically about like the Taekwondo katas. When were they?
Oh, the Taekwondo katas. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're made in World War II, and I think the reason why they exist, and this is a theory. I have no proof of this. I'm just theorizing. I think it's much easier to teach people how to do that than to actually fight. I think it's much easier to get a group of people to do a very rigid motion that has, very strict guidelines for how you do it. There's no expression. You can't change it. It's much easier to teach a group of people how to do that than to people how to jab or how to spar. Like, I think that's why they were invented, because it has a progression and a basis, and when you have that structure, it's easier to teach a mass group of people that.
That's true. It is way easier, and then to make somebody a rank based on, okay, we're working on Gichu Young Ilbu, and then Gichu Young Ilbu Sangap, and
yeah. Uh-oh. Hello? Are you there? Hey, I lost you there. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back on.
Okay, cool. What happened?
I don't know, just something happened, but we're back on. So
okay, I was like, so you're talking
you
about forms
too. Oh yeah, have you ever listened to Adam Chan? Have you ever heard him?
No, I don't know.
You should listen to him. He does this thing called the Kung Fu Report. He's really good.
Okay.
But he has this thing on forms, and he's, people were like, well, can you learn forms? Should you not learn forms? And he said this thing that's really, I've said this on the podcast a bunch. I'm going to go ahead and say it again. But basically, he said, learning forms is like reading a dictionary and saying that was a really shitty novel. And this is the thing. If you look at like original old forms, like we're talking like old karate forms from Okinawa, like, you know, really old forms, not the ones that were developed in World War II, because they're not legit at all. But they're very fluid, and they don't, like, you don't go from like a low stance to a low stance to a low stance to, you know, this rigid inner block to a rigid inner block. They're more like this, and this is before, when people invented these. This is before, you know, not a lot of people could read. You know, they didn't write it down. They didn't make picture books. This is how they coded their information. And if you look at the bukai from these old forms, not the ones that were just made up, they're little pieces of fighting. They're not the whole fight. They're little pieces of fighting. So like they'll have somebody come in and you'll go, you know, that's like a hip throw. And then they'll go on to something else. It's not supposed to be like a hip throw, then a outward block, and then a, you know, it wasn't meant to be that way. It was a piece of their fight that they found valuable to use. And then what happened was then the next generation picked it up and said, well, that's what we're going to do, you know, kind of a thing. So
I think if you want to look at the truest version of doing forms, I would look at judo. The judo, you literally, like, their forms, their kata, is just the throws, right? You walk up, you do the throw, you go, you move in a pattern, but you're doing the throws on somebody. And I think that's the truest way. And people like to argue, like, oh, are you saying forms are not legitimate? I'm like, I believe they were at a period of time. I think that for a reason. I don't think it was a complete waste of time back then. Now it's a waste of time, in my opinion. But back then, you know, they had a purpose. And like you said before, I think the original intention of the forms was actually teaching people how to fight. But then it became this whole weird, convoluted thing. Like, well, I'm not sure, you know, that stuff doesn't work anymore. So I guess we'll just teach them the same stuff that was used, you know, way back, and just modify it so it looks new. And then, so
lots of spins and stuff. We both having coughing problems here.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Well, Taylor, thank you for being back on the program. And I didn't give you the chance to ask this question. What's that?
It was contagious. Sorry, my coughing.
Right. The internet's getting quick, right?
Yeah.
I didn't give you a chance to answer this question last time because I really wasn't sure, you know, like how the program was going to develop or whatever. But I've asked every other one, and I'm going to give you the chance to answer this question now, and that is, what are your top 3 fighting methods and or training methods? You can switch them out. Fight methods or training methods that you would pass on to our listeners.
Okay, great. Yeah, I actually I was thinking about this because on Saturday when I'm doing that seminar, I'm actually going to go over these top 3 things. So number 1, cardio. I think that if you are in shape and you're just in good shape, you're avoiding fights most of the time, right? Because if you can run away, if you're agile, you're going to have the stamina to endure that, right? And I think that's super important. I think some people forget that, you know, in martial arts, that the best fight you have is the one you get away from. And if you are, the thing is, when you're in a stressful situation, whether that's in the ring or whether that's on the street, your adrenaline is going to spike like crazy, and then you're going to lose half your energy, which is why I think cardio, you know, just intense strength and conditioning is super important. And then the second thing I would say is do resistance-based training. So, and you've heard this before, but, you know, practice techniques that can work against somebody using 100% of the force. Not 50%, not 80%, 100%. Like if they're actually going for your head. And this doesn't apply just to striking arts. This applies to, like, you know, stick fighting too. And just every martial art, you should practice under the concept of somebody actually trying to hurt you. Not just kind of sticking their hand out. You do like a bunch of finishing moves, and it's just basically a movie at that point. So that's the second thing. Third thing is consistency. Don't expect to learn how to defend yourself in an hour, you know, or at some weekend seminar, like you said. Like, yeah, you're gonna learn valuable stuff, but honestly, if you train consistently, you're gonna be much better off than just doing a one-time thing. It's not that easy. Martial arts isn't just something you can just get a weekend certification course in. Like, you got to actually study extensively. It's like going to school. That's why it's martial arts school. You're going to school. You're studying, getting your bachelor's of, you know, whether it's Taekwondo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, you study it like at school. So.
Yeah. Right on. Those three. Thank you very much, Taylor. Let everybody know where they can find you on the web.
So you can find me several ways. Probably the most content I have out is my YouTube channel. So if you just type functional Taekwondo on YouTube, you'll find me pretty easily. It should be the first video that pops up. If you want to message me personally, you can visit my Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/functionaltkd. I also have a website, functionaltkd.com. So that's the way you guys can get a hold of me if you want to talk to me about stuff.
Right on. Okay, well, anytime you're going to be back on the show, you let me know. We'll chop it up about other martial arts issues. Always enjoy talking with you. Stick with me, though, as I close out the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on the Empty Cup podcast. If you like what you heard, you know what to do. You share this on your favorite social media. That helps spread the word about this podcast. If you have any ideas for upcoming topics on podcasts, please, contact us on Facebook, or Twitter at the Empty Cup podcast. We should come up. And if you want to do me a big favor, you can write a review on iTunes. We're on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. That just helps people find us. And also, if you're looking for other information on Jeet Kune Do and other stuff that I do, you can visit me on my YouTube page at Ronin Jake. Just look it up on YouTube, Ronin Jake. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Until we meet again, please don't forget to keep your gloves up.